I am the daughter of an imperial merchant. While accompanying my cousin, the emperor, on a tour of the south, he asked for a few of my shops to give to his newly favored concubine. I readily agreed. But the next day, filth was thrown at my front gate. A famous courtesan from the south, with a 5-year-old son in tow and a large belly, was blocking my gate. She was in tears, and the crowd was sympathetic. This jealous woman can't have children of her own, and she resents me for giving my beloved 2 children. She won't let me in, and now she has taken away the means of my livelihood that he gave me. She is so cruel. She wants to drive us to our deaths. She publicly accused me of committing the 7 offenses that are grounds for divorce. But my husband Samuel had married into my family. It was still dark, but there was a commotion at the gate. Concerned for my cousin, the emperor, who was still resting, I hurried out to see what was happening. But as soon as I got to the gate, I was hit by a foul stench. I covered my nose and asked the gatekeeper, "What is going on?" Before he could answer, a sharp female voice came from outside. "Why is this bitch hiding? Is she afraid to see me?" The gatekeeper with a grim face explained, "Miss, some hussy has been shouting at the gate since early this morning and she even threw filth on our gate. I told her I would call the authorities, but she won't leave." I frowned slightly and ordered, "Open the gate, and then you go to the authorities through the side gate. We have a distinguished guest in the house. If he is disturbed, who will be responsible?" Outside the main gate, a crowd had already gathered. A woman in a plain dress, holding her pregnant belly, was holding a young boy's hand. When she saw me, she feigned a delicate swoon and said to the crowd, "It is not that I am being aggressive today, but this woman is simply too much." Although she was holding a child, her hair was only half tied, and her long black hair hung loosely down her back. She did not look like a respectable woman. I just motioned for the servants behind me to quickly clean up the mess at the gate. If my cousin were to see this, it would be a disaster. Isn't that the former top courtesan of the fragrant pavilion, Isabella? 5 years ago, wasn't she bought out by a rich merchant from the capital for 1,000 gold taels? What is all this commotion? The whole street stinks. Hearing the crowd's whispers, my face darkened. This street was home to the wealthy and powerful of the South. My family had lost a great deal of face today. She, naturally, also knew she had been recognized and made no attempt to hide it. She dabbed at her non-existent tears with a handkerchief and cried, "As you all know, I was once the most beautiful woman in the South. After being bought out by my beloved, all I wanted was to be a good wife and mother. But this woman insisted on pursuing my husband. After she married him, out of jealousy that I was his true love and that I could bear him children, she wouldn't even grant me the title of a concubine. On the surface, she is the daughter of a rich family, but in reality, she has less self-respect than the lowest prostitute in a brothel. Not just the neighbors, but even I was shocked. Samuel was my husband. We had been married for 5 years. I wouldn't say we were deeply in love, but we were respectful and courteous to each other. He was from a poor family but had passed the imperial exams with high honors. After being introduced by a matchmaker, he had fallen for me at first sight, and had even been willing to give up his official career to marry into my family. Since our marriage, he had not even had a serving girl in his room. When he was out for social engagements, he would never spend the night outside. Who would have thought that he would have a mistress in the South, far from home, and that he would spend my family's money on her, showering her with gifts? You are slandering me with empty words. Can you be responsible for what you say? Hearing her absurd words, I could only guess, were you deceived by him? But she just continued to insult me with a tearful voice. She is not only a jealous woman, but also a cruel and heartless one. He only gave me a few shops to support me and my orphaned son, but this venomous woman is trying to take away our livelihood. She wants to drive us to our deaths. Isn't it just because she is jealous that I can have sons?" At these words, I finally understood why she had come to my door. My family had been imperial merchants for generations. In the capital, we were wealthy but not particularly prominent. It wasn't until my aunt entered the palace, became a favorite of the late emperor, and gave birth to the current emperor, that our status rose. When my cousin, the emperor, had suggested a trip to the south, He had specifically asked me to accompany him. I had naturally agreed and had even offered to cover all the expenses. Yesterday, as we were passing through the most prosperous street in the city, my cousin had noticed that the family of his newly favored concubine lived nearby and had had the idea of pleasing her by asking for a few shops. I also had some property in the south. My cousin had always been good to my family. A few shops were nothing. I had immediately had the deeds brought and given to him, but I never thought that these shops had already been secretly promised to her by him. My action had been like poking a hornet's nest, and she had come to my door to cause a scene. My eyes turned cold. Although a few shops were nothing to my family, the rent or income from shops in this area was enough for an ordinary family to live a comfortable life. This money had probably all gone to her. She, in front of me, was not done yet. Everyone, this woman has been married for 5 years and cannot bear children for her husband. This is a violation of the rule of childlessness. Second, she has no tolerance and wants to drive her husband's heir to his death. This is a violation of the rule of jealousy. You all say, should this woman be divorced? Someone in the crowd who didn't mind stirring up trouble said, she should be divorced. I followed the voice and saw my childhood friend, Julian, leaning against his door, gleefully playing along. I glared at him, then asked her, divorce me. Don't you know that he married into my family? It is the man who marries into a family who is thrown out. She couldn't help but sneer, as if she didn't believe my words at all. If you are going to lie, at least make it a believable one. He passed the imperial exams. A scholar who has passed the exams can become an official. How could he marry into your family? She looked at my front gate, a flicker of disdain in her eyes. No wonder she is a merchant's daughter. She is good at putting on a show, but a merchant is still a lowly person. He said that if it weren't for your family's money, a scholar like him would never have looked at you. I laughed. Did he really say that to you? Although merchants were at the bottom of the social ladder, with my family's wealth, this was the first time in my life that someone had pointed at my nose and called a merchant lowly. Besides, even if he did marry into your family, so what? He is a man. Even if your family is rich, you are the only daughter. In the future, you will still have to rely on him to support the family. She held up the little boy's hand and made a gesture of compromise. When I am married, you can have my son. Your large family will need an heir, right? A spectator swayed by her pitiful act said righteously, Miss, she has been pushed to this point. If you can't have children, why can't you let someone else? If everyone married a jealous wife like you, wouldn't the family line die out? How ridiculous. A man who marries into a family, his children have to take the wife's surname. When he had begged to marry into my family, why hadn't he mentioned the matter of continuing his own family line? Before I could retort, the gatekeeper returned with men from the yamen. The officer scanned the crowd and looked at me. Are you the one who reported this? I pointed at her. Yes. This woman threw filth at my gate early this morning and is now causing a scene and disturbing the peace. She collapsed at the officer's feet, as if she had no bones. Your Excellency, you must seek justice for me. A busybody described the conflict between us to the officer. The officer's eyes darted around and he asked me, did you take her deeds? Hearing such a strange question, I denied it. I just took back my own deeds. But the officer acted as if he had conclusive evidence. So you admit you took the deeds? Men, arrest this woman. As soon as he said that, someone rushed forward to arrest me. My servants raised their clubs and stood in front of me. My personal maid asked me, Miss, should we ask that person to intervene? My eyes darkened slightly. I still shook my head. My cousin is here to relax. How can I bother him with such family matters? Besides, I also want to see what they are trying to do. The gavel slammed. A crime from out of nowhere. The magistrate pointed at my nose and asked, Miss, why did you take the deeds? I was dumbfounded. Whose deeds did I take? The deeds are in my name. She glanced at me, a hint of triumph in her eyes. The rent from these shops has been coming to me for the past 3 years. Of course, they are my shops. If you say they are yours, Then show me the deeds. Although the deeds to those few shops had not yet been transferred, I had already given them to my cousin. I looked at the magistrate and asked, "Your Excellency, she has been illegally occupying my property for 3 years. Should she not return all the ill-gotten gains?" The magistrate looked troubled. "You have to prove that the property is yours." I was silent. My family was an imperial merchant, not an ordinary one. Our business was mainly in the north. Our property in the south was acquired after I married him, who was from the south. So my family's name was not as well known in the south. I instructed my personal maid. "In that case, explain to my cousin and get the deeds first." The magistrate and she both had a look of triumph on their faces. Before I could wonder, her soft voice came again. "She has committed the 7 offenses. According to the law, she should be divorced. I ask Your Excellency to seek justice for me." I found it amusing and asked, "You, a mistress who is not even a concubine, want to have me divorced? Why don't you ask him if he will divorce me?" She frowned slightly and said with a magnanimous air, "Miss, why force a love that is not returned? He has traveled a long way to see me and our son many times. You are just occupying my place. I am the true wife in his heart." This time, I really laughed out loud. He, to marry into my family, had given up his official career. So when he had suggested managing the southern properties, I hadn't refused. I had just thought he was doing it to better take care of his widowed mother, who was from here. Who would have thought he even had a 5-year-old child? And we had only been married for 5 years. I also heard her say, "Yes, he is not in the south now, but that doesn't mean your position as the official wife is secure. Besides him, there is someone else who can divorce you." The person who was brought to the court was his mother. She smiled with certainty. "Your mother-in-law has already agreed to let me in. Are you still going to be so stubborn?" "Old madam, what did you say to me?" At her words, his mother reluctantly came out from the crowd. Her eyes darted around. Isabella. Seeing this, how could I not understand that her causing a scene today was also with his mother's help? I just didn't know if he was aware of it. She said, "Old madam, what are you afraid of? You are his mother. Now that they are enjoying their life in the capital, they have left you in this small town. What is the meaning of this? Our dynasty has always valued filial piety. She is unfilial. She should be divorced." My expression was indifferent. I had no desire to argue with such a person. "Don't worry, I don't want him anymore." Seeing the tense atmosphere, his mother tried to mediate. "Isabella, don't say such angry words. It is a fact that you have not had a child in 5 years. She has given him his first son. If you don't let her in, are you going to let his first son wander outside? Don't worry, I will not agree to a divorce. You can just let her in." Seeing her trying to persuade me in a low voice, I almost laughed. When I had chosen him, it was also because his family was simple, with only a widowed mother. His mother was kind and soft-spoken and seemed easy to get along with. When I had suggested she move to the capital, she had just refused. I am a simple woman. I am used to living in this town. How can I adapt to the capital? Only now did I know what a muddle-headed person she was. Marrying into a family. Did his family not know what that meant? I looked at her with suspicion. "Mother-in-law, so you were the one who had her come to my door and cause a scene? And you knew all along that he had a mistress outside, and a son this big? Do you know that your family is guilty of marriage fraud?" His mother's eyes widened. "Marriage fraud? Isabella, what are you talking about?" She clutched her chest, as if she couldn't breathe. "Isabella, have I not been good to you? Since you married into our family, I have never made things difficult for you. Other daughters-in-law have to serve tea before dawn, and I am a widow, with no one to take care of me. You can't have children, and I have never pressured you." She gently patted her back and said to me accusingly, "This bitch is trying to anger her mother-in-law to death. How vicious." Just then, a servant brought the deeds and handed them to the magistrate. The magistrate just glanced at them and immediately pronounced judgment. Miss, how dare you forge the deeds? This is a serious crime, men. Take this criminal to prison and confiscate all of her family's property. The magistrate's hasty judgment shocked me. I directly questioned him. Is this how you, as a parent official, judge cases? Do you have no regard for justice and the law? She covered her mouth and smiled. This is the Southern Prefecture. The magistrate is the justice and the law. Isabella, what is so great about having a little money? In the end, you are just a merchant's daughter, easily manipulated. From her look, she must have already colluded with the magistrate. I had long heard that the governance in the South was corrupt, but I never thought that the local parent official would be so bold as to disregard the law, to twist black and white, to seize the property of the common people. The magistrate put away the deeds and said condescendingly, "Mere commoner, and you dare to speak to me like that? Take her away immediately and give her 20 lashes." She curled her lips slightly. "Isabella, when you are dead, I will burn a few more pieces of paper for you. At that time, I will take good care of your husband and your property." Seeing that the officers were really going to take me away, the servants I had brought with me immediately rushed forward. His mother, seeing this, was flustered and grabbed her hand, at a loss. "What is going on? Didn't you just say that you would be a concubine?" The magistrate, on the high platform, roared. "What is this, miss? You dare to disrupt the court." Looking at the furious magistrate, I also pointed at his nose and snapped. "There is no justice in this court. Is it even a court? You are an unjust official. So what if I disrupt your court?" I looked at her again. "Isabella, you will be disappointed. Even if I die, I still have my parents and relatives. How can I let you and his mother take everything?" I almost forgot. You are a prostitute who was sold by her parents into a brothel. When you die, there will be no one to cry for you. This was a sore spot for her. She looked at the servants, who were more numerous than the officers, and showed no fear. "So what if you have more people? You dare to defy the government. You are the one who is so bold. You have brought all your servants here. What about your home?" I looked at her malicious smile and said with suspicion, "What do you mean?" Her eyes flashed with a hint of ruthlessness. "The magistrate has already sent officers to your estate to arrest your family." I raised an eyebrow and couldn't help but laugh. My family, even he, was currently in the capital. In my southern estate, there was only me and my cousin, the emperor. But the guards around my cousin were several times more numerous than the servants I had brought. In the court, the two sides were at a stalemate. She sat on a chair to the side, certain that she had already won. "I really don't understand how he could have given up his official career for you. He is so short-sighted. If he had entered the officialdom, he would at least be a parent official now." It seems she was not completely ignorant of his affairs. My tone was slightly sarcastic. If all parent officials were like the magistrate, then it was the right decision for him not to enter the officialdom. The magistrate sneered. "Isabella, don't think you can be so arrogant just because you have a little money, in the face of power. What is money? You are still young today. I will teach you a lesson. Power is justice." Just then, an officer ran in, flustered, and whispered something in the magistrate's ear. The magistrate's face changed drastically. He turned and questioned me. "You have a private army in your estate. Is your family plotting a rebellion?" I savored the magistrate's last words and smiled sweetly. "You are right, Your Excellency. Power is justice. But this world is a ladder. Above power, there is even greater power. You are using your power to oppress people today, but there will always be someone with more power." The magistrate slammed his gavel heavily. "What are you trying to do here? At least today, I can use my power to oppress you. Summon the government soldiers. I'd like to see what kind of trouble you can stir up." At the front gate of the estate, the officers were being held by soldiers. The street was empty, clearly having been cleared. The officers, seeing the magistrate, were as if they had seen a savior. They regained their courage and cried, "Your Excellency, this estate is rebelling." The magistrate, seeing the well-trained soldiers, swallowed, but still snapped, "Isabella, let them go." The magistrate's confidence was much weaker. I knew he was scared, but he had no way out. I said slowly. I would like to, but I don't have the ability. A general in black armor walked out from the estate and bowed to me. Miss, the master wishes to see you. The leader of the guard's gaze fell on the magistrate and her, with a hint of intimidation. This official, and this young lady, should also come along. The magistrate and her exchanged a look. The estate, which looked like an ordinary wealthy residence on the outside, was completely different on the inside. It was a 5-courtyard mansion. After the front courtyard and the main hall, there was a soldier on guard every 5 steps. By the time we reached the inner courtyard, there were already hundreds of soldiers, and a patrol of soldiers in black armor would pass every quarter of an hour. When we entered the last courtyard, we were searched. The magistrate and her did not resist. They were clearly intimidated by the display of force, especially her, whose legs were trembling. She probably remembered her arrogant behavior that morning and was scared. In the pavilion by the pond, my cousin was feeding the fish. Seeing me, he threw all the bait in his hand into the pond, and the 100 or so koi in the pond all swarmed to eat it. He smiled warmly. Cousin, you are back. The magistrate, seeing that this person was very young, was immediately relieved. He put on his usual official air. Who are you, to dare to collude with her and put on a show? Do you know that keeping a private army is a crime punishable by the extermination of your entire clan? My cousin seemed to have just noticed the magistrate and her behind me. He said with surprise, "Oh, you've found me out. Then I'll have to silence you." The magistrate, seeing the leader of the guards about to draw his sword, turned pale. "You dare. I am the magistrate of the South." My cousin sighed. If he is an official, then we can't let him live. A small magistrate. In any case, the sky is high and the emperor is far away. Let's just kill him. The magistrate, seeing the fierce-looking leader of the guards already drawing his sword, was so scared he fell to his knees. Spare me. I have a patron in the court. If I die, they will come after you. My cousin looked at the koi in the pond, which were all gathered together, and his smile deepened. How big of a patron can you have? Tell me. The magistrate opened his mouth to speak but hesitated, clearly afraid of his patron. His eyes flashed with a hint of ruthlessness. If you are going to kill me, then kill me. In any case, if you kill me, you won't be able to leave the South. I pointed to the many soldiers in the estate. We can't leave the South. Are all these men just for show? A few hundred soldiers compared to. He suddenly fell silent, as if he had realized his mistake. My cousin was not in a hurry to press him, and instead asked me, "Who were the deeds for?" I pointed at her and complained loudly. She said I had stolen her deeds, and the magistrate just blatantly gave her the deeds that were in my name, and even said he would confiscate my family's property. Cousin, if he really confiscates our family's property, I won't even be able to buy a gift to please my aunt. My cousin was amused by my feigned grievance, his tone indulgent. Who dares to confiscate our family's property? I will seek justice for you. With that, he had her and the magistrate tied up. The two of them still wanted to struggle, but a white cloth was placed over their faces. My cousin used the fish food container to scoop up a ladle of water from the pond, and slowly poured it on the cloth. The two of them were instantly silenced. Seeing that the first cloth was soaked, the little eunuch behind my cousin had the presence of mind to place another cloth on their faces. My cousin patiently scooped up another ladle of water and poured it on the cloth. When it was time for the third cloth, he even said with great interest, "One cloth promotes you to the 9th rank. 5 cloths and you'll be talking to the king of hell." Watching the two of them struggle violently, I kindly reminded him, "Cousin, that is enough. She is pregnant with his child." When the 3 soaked cloths were removed, the two of them were barely breathing. My cousin's smile never changed. He asked the magistrate again, "Want another round? It is quite fun." The magistrate, looking at my seemingly kind cousin, was as if he were looking at the king of hell himself, and said in terror, "No, don't kill me. I'll tell you everything." The person behind me is the Prince of Jinn. He is very powerful. I won't say a word about what happened today. I won't cause you any trouble." My cousin laughed. "Who is in trouble?" After a laugh, he lost interest and ordered, "Lock them up. Interrogate them slowly. There are probably more interesting things in the South than just this." My cousin glanced at her. "Cousin, I won't interfere in your family matters. You can do as you please. I will back you up. After all, you have been a great help on this trip to the South." I nodded in agreement. My cousin was about to leave when she boldly said, "This gentleman, I see you are a man of extraordinary bearing. Will you not ask about the right and wrong of the matter, and just let your cousin deal with me?" My cousin and I both turned back. She had 2 strands of wet hair clinging to her white ear, and her seductive eyes were full of a silent plea. I was moved, let alone him. My cousin, who was used to beautiful women, said with curiosity, "Are you trying to seduce me?" For a moment, even I was choked by my cousin's directness, let alone her. After all, she was experienced in the ways of the world, and had a strong psychological fortitude. Her eyes were still mournful. "I know my place. How could I dare to hope for your favor?" My cousin was still smiling. "I have never refused anyone, but my beloved concubine last month, because a maid looked at me one more time, had her eyes gouged out." "Miss, how many eyes do you have?" My cousin, seeing that she was easily frightened, showed a hint of disgust in his eyes. He waved his fan, as if nothing had happened. "Cousin, remember to bring me the deeds again. You women." She was the one who gouged out the eyes, and I was the one who had to coax her after I said a few words to her. My cousin was talking about the newly promoted concubine, who was from a general's family, and had been raised by her grandmother in the South since she was a child. She had a spoiled and arrogant personality, but was deeply in love with my cousin. Although her actions were vicious and ostentatious, my cousin liked her. If the concubine knew that the deeds my cousin was going to give to her grandmother had been taken, and that this person had also tried to throw herself at him, I patted her face and sighed. "I won't kill you, but there are plenty of people who want you dead. You guess, if I take you back to the capital, will he be surprised or happy? You wanted a title, didn't you? I'll give you a chance." My cousin had just cast his bait and caught a fish. He naturally wanted to stay and catch a bigger fish, and to clean up the pond. I was in no hurry to go back, but he had traveled 1,000 miles to come. When she saw him, she was as if she had found her backbone and eagerly clung to him. "My love, our child has missed you so much. But you let your shrew of a wife bully me." But before she could start her complaint, he, regardless of her pregnancy, pushed her away and scolded her. "You dare to twist black and white. I already know that you were the one who started it." A pregnant woman is already sensitive. She immediately started to cry and explained, "My love, I have raised our child alone for 5 years, and now I am pregnant again. But you have been so slow to give me a title, and you haven't seen me in half a year. I was just anxious." A beauty in tears is a pitiful sight, but he was cold. 5 years. "Have you still not learned your place?" I watched with cold eyes. "He can't give you a title. I told you. He married into my family. You didn't believe me." He heard this and did not argue. He just lowered his eyes and said earnestly, "Isabella, don't worry." I looked at the man who had once been my husband, and felt that he was a complete stranger. I could hardly see any trace of the young man from before. It was he who had said with deep affection, "I do not seek fame and fortune. I only want to be by your side." I glanced at my personal maid. She immediately understood and slapped him across the face. "Affect my position? Are you not aware of your own position? Do you remember what you promised me back then? You said that if you ever had a second thought, you would leave with nothing." His lips were pale. "Isabella, we have been together for many years. Are you going to give up on me just because of one mistake?" I pointed at her belly. "One mistake? The first child was a mistake. Is this one also a mistake? You are really good at playing dumb." His eyes darted around, and he was still trying to argue. "I just wanted a child of my own. My mother is always nagging me to continue the family line. And you know, we have been married for 5 years and still have no children. Looking at the completely unfamiliar him, I asked, "Are you blaming me for not giving your family an heir? What do you need an heir for, to inherit your few acres of land?" Hearing my sarcasm, he gave a sad smile. "So, this is what you think of me in those days. I gave up my official career for you." I was not moved by his words and just said, "Did I force you to give it up? You were the one who was willing to marry into my family. Then you should have thought about what you would have to give up. After all, I didn't have to have you." He gave a bitter smile. "Isabella, I never knew you were such a harsh woman. Yes, I was the one who willingly married into your family. But does a man who marries into a family have no dignity? I knew it. In all these years, you have never once taken me seriously." She, on the side, was dumbfounded. "My love, did you really marry into her family? How could you be so foolish as to give up a great future for a woman?" I unhesitatingly exposed his hypocrisy. "For me, in all these years, even a little bit of money that has slipped through my family's fingers has been enough for you and your mother to live a life of luxury. Outside, everyone calls you master. Why? Because you are related to me, to the Empress Dowager, to His Majesty. In these few years as a man who has married into a family, you have lived a much more glamorous life than you would have as a small local official." A divorce paper was slapped in front of him. "If you feel that being a man who has married into a family has no dignity, then don't be. From now on, you have no relationship with my family." He looked at the divorce paper in disbelief. Even a man who has married into a family, there is no precedent for a woman to divorce her husband. "How dare you? How dare she not?" My cousin, who had just returned from fishing, put down his fishing rod. "You have deceived my cousin. You have great courage." His face was ashen, and he knelt before my cousin. "Your Majesty, I am truly devoted to her. I ask you, how many men in this world can give up their official career for their wife?" My cousin nodded thoughtfully. "I had forgotten that you were a scholar I had personally appointed. In that case, I will grant you a favor." His eyes lit up with hope, but the eunuch behind my cousin brought out a white silk cloth, a dagger, and a cup of poison. He immediately collapsed on the floor. "Your Majesty, I have not committed a crime worthy of death." She was so scared she was a fool. But she didn't dare to offend my cousin. She crawled over and grabbed my clothes. "Miss, I know I was wrong. Please spare him. The child in my belly cannot be without a father." My cousin said coolly, "You are still pleading for him. You should be thinking about your own head." She was truly scared. She clutched her belly and backed away. "No, it was all his fault. He said he had no feelings for his wife, and he said he would give me a title. That is why I was so foolish as to cause trouble for you, miss." With that, she lunged at him and started to fight. "It was all you. You've ruined my life." My cousin didn't have anyone stop them and watched with great interest as the shrewish her and the well-dressed him had her hair pulled. My lip twitched. "Cousin, the two of them are not worthy of death. Since they are so deeply in love, and they even have a child, why not just let them be?" My cousin thought for a moment, and was about to say something when he was interrupted by a strange sound. I saw that he, finally unable to take her anymore, had given her a hard shove. And this shove had sent her belly crashing into the table. Immediately, the smell of blood filled the air. She curled up in pain, watching her dress slowly turn red, and said in despair, "The child is gone." His eyes showed no trace of pity. He just said impatiently, "My life is on the line, and you are still thinking about the child. Besides, isn't our son enough?" Her eyes flashed with a hint of triumph. "Samuel, he is not your child at all, and your only child was killed by your own hands." He, who was already in a state of distress, did not react to her words for a moment, and just roared. "Can you just stop this? What did you say?" "He is not my child," she said with hatred. "Of course not. He is the son of the magistrate of the South. If it weren't for your promise to marry me, I would have already become the magistrate's 7th concubine." Even my cousin was a little surprised. He, in his easygoing manner, comforted her. If you had become the magistrate's seventh concubine, you would be dead by now. After all, the magistrate has already been executed, and his family's property confiscated. My cousin looked at me with a hint of admiration. My cousin has been good at making plans since she was little. Then I will listen to you and order these two to be married. They can never be separated in this life. He and she, hearing this, didn't know if they should be glad to have survived. But my cousin had already waved his hand. Drag these two out. Don't let them dirty my cousin's eyes again. A year later, the front gate of the GU estate in the capital was decorated with lanterns and colorful banners, a festive atmosphere. A passerby asked curiously, "What is the happy occasion?" A kind-hearted person immediately explained, "The county magistrate's daughter has been newly appointed as a princess, and the second son of the Pei family is marrying into the Giyu family, a double blessing." The passerby was puzzled. The second son of the Pei family is also from a noble family. He accompanied His Majesty to the south last year, and even performed a great service. Now he is a favorite of the emperor. Why would he marry into a family? The gatekeeper of the GU estate, also full of joy, explained to the passerby, "Our young miss and the young Master Pei have been childhood sweethearts, but our young miss is an only daughter, so she naturally needs to have a man marry into her family." The Pei family also wanted to marry a virtuous wife. After much deliberation, the matter was delayed. But the young Master Pei has not married for many years, and his family was getting anxious. And since he is the second son, the family finally relented to this marriage. Today, they have even set up 100 tables of feast for the common people. The guests can take their seats. The passerby, after hearing this, had just said a few auspicious words when he was distracted by a huge commotion from the direction of the imperial palace. The drums at the palace gate were thundering. Samonin was making an imperial complaint. The wedding ceremony was almost over. I also looked in the direction of the palace and asked my cousin, who had come to watch the ceremony. "Cousin, someone is making an imperial complaint. Are you not going to take a look?" Just then, the leader of the guards reported something to my cousin. My cousin, after listening, said with a half-smile, "No need. It is an old woman, saying her daughter-in-law killed her son, and she has traveled 1,000 miles to make an imperial complaint. But to make an imperial complaint, one has to roll on a bed of nails. The old woman only rolled halfway before she died." My cousin sighed. The life of the common people is so hard. From now on, the rule of rolling on a bed of nails should be abolished. Julian asked casually. "Then does your Majesty want to investigate whether the old woman's words are true?" My cousin smiled. "Speaking of which, this marriage was granted by me. If I investigate, it would be my fault." Julian was immediately silent, then said to me, "Then that is truly a triple blessing."